Hello. It's 2 minutes till, so we will take a few minutes and wait for others to join us. In the meantime, I invite you to feel your feet on the ground and just take a moment of breathing to become present to the now moment. Allow these 2 minutes to be a gift to yourself today. You may want to grab a piece of paper and a pen or pencil too, because we'll be using it tonight. All right, it's 6 o'clock. Welcome to Spiritual Center Spokane. My name is Reverend Bonnie, and I'm glad to be back with you for another week. So, last week I introduced this candle, God is love, I am love, and I rise in love. And I shared with you that one of my many spiritual practices is buying these candles at the store and placing a prayer on them. And so, this is my prayer right now. And it does change. I have a dearly beloved friend who taught me to do 9 of these at a time for a novena, which is a Catholic process. And when I do that, I will write a prayer on 9 different candles, place it in my kitchen sink with water beneath it so I know it's safe, and I will let it burn for a solid they usually last 6 or 7 days, knowing that my prayer is spoken for me through the use of the candle. So, I have a really great affection for these candles. So I'm going to go ahead and light it tonight. And I invite you, as I light this, to think about in the future if you would like to, at the same time, light a candle for yourself at home and maybe create your own sacred space right along with me. There we go. I'll put that to my right. And then another piece I'd like to introduce is sound. And this is a really great, um, these are old shells, and it's on a kind of shamanic bracelet. I got it at Amazon. They're easy to get. But I like to use this when I want to clean the space around me energetically. So as I do this, I just invite you to receive this as well. Just knowing that everything is God and that this is a ritualistic reminder for myself of the allness of God and the wholeness, the newness, and the cleanliness of God. So let's just take a moment together and let's just get centered into our being. Close your eyes if you'd like to. We're going to breathe in and breathe out of our heart. And I'll open in prayer. So I just recognize how quick it is that we can refresh our own physical being. That within just a couple minutes, we lit a candle to remember the light that we are and heard some sound as a way of cleaning and cleansing and bringing us into the new now moment. And then we stopped and we breathed. We felt the Holy Spirit of breath within our body, living, moving, and breathing our very body temples. And so, as we just take this refresher, we're reminded how quickly and easy it is to go from outside noise back into our home base. And so I give thanks for this. I give thanks for the divine presence within me, within each and every one of you, for that beautiful light of God that exists between us. And I just give thanks for this thing called spiritual community. I bless each one of us and call it good. And so it is. Amen. All right. Well, again, welcome to our Tuesday night Spiritual Center Spokane gathering. Tomorrow is the Lunar New Year. And so, if in the last 3.5 weeks you have not felt as though you had a start for the year, you can start again tomorrow. And I'll let you in on a spiritual secret. The reality is, every single entire moment is new. If we're not hauling the past in with us, and if we're not fantasizing about a future, but we're fully and completely present, every single entire moment is new. So, calendar wise, you can begin new again tomorrow. And the reality is that each one of us can begin new anytime we so desire. So, let's just take a breath, breathing into this new moment. So, I want to thank all of you prayer warriors for the prayer work that you've done for LA and the fires. If you've been tracking the news at all, you would know that Saturday it rained all day long, and that rain was very helpful in putting out the fires. And so, whenever I've been involved in prayer for myself, for the world, for the culture, for an area, I like to stop when I see a manifestation of that prayer work and remind myself of the potency of prayer. So, for all of you spiritual prayer warriors that were with me in praying for LA, for rain, for well being, for knowing that right where they are, God is, thank you. And we get to put in our little prayer journals the awareness note that indeed it actually did work and that our work isn't over. The work that we do in consciousness is. Is ongoing because it's how we show up and who we are in the world. So, yay, yay, and yay. And tonight for my talk, I wanted to share 3 different stories. What I promised was that the talk and practice would be highly relevant, meaning that I would share with you what's going on with me spiritually and what I'm seeing and what I'm experiencing directly. And I would share with you how I interpret what's happening in the culture, and that our spiritual talk part would be current. So it wouldn't be an old manufactured lesson or borrowed material from the past, but it would be really what's going on right here and now. So 3 things popped up this week for me, and I'd like to share them with you. And the first is about Spiritual Center Spokane. So many of you have been with me and actually with us from its formation. So, Spiritual Center Spokane came about as a vision from 3 very strong spiritual women and myself. So, 4 of us who had this vision of a spiritual place in Spokane where the light of God was made manifest. And because of that, the community was uplifted. And so we would be a place where God could work through us and shine its light so that there could become a coalesced light in Spokane. And that's not to say that other spiritual centers, other churches, synagogues, temples aren't also in the same body of work. It's to say that we really wanted to do it in a spiritual way, not in a dogmatic way. And so the three of us got together with this intention and decided we would open a gathering space in a church basement locally. And we did in September, and it included the talk and the practice that I'm doing now, some version of talk and practice. And it had a lot of limitations, and it didn't work well for me. Now, its plus sides is that I got to see you guys in person who I love so deeply. And we got to hug and we got to talk and we got to see each other. And that will come in the future. I have no doubt about it. But there were so many limitations. One is that if you weren't there for that 1 hour during the week and missed it, you missed it. There was no way of catching up. There was no way of seeing it or finding it in any other way. And then we had beautiful, beautiful Gay who did the attempts at live streaming. And what I learned very quickly was that if she wasn't around and available, then that couldn't happen. So there was a lot of inconsistency. I did some traveling. The infrastructure for volunteers was quite immense. And it just never quite felt right. So at the end of the end of the Thanksgiving season, um, I had a meeting with the advisory committee, these three strong women and myself. And we came up with the idea that maybe Spiritual Center Spokane should be a membership site on a website where we could get together and do our spiritual practices and so forth. And then I would host a membership site. So that was our next idea. And might I say, it was a great idea, but it just didn't work for me. And the more that I tried to make it happen through our web portal, the more it wouldn't happen through the web portal. And the more complicated everything became. And then I sat in meditation and thought the last thing in the world I want to do is build content and market. Like, that is not who I am. I love the idea that the Spirit of God is at work through me, doing its beautiful work, and that I'm not out pitching some kind of spiritual membership. Now, that's not to say that they aren't of value because I'm a member of many spiritual memberships. It just didn't resonate with me. So I was coming up against our first night, Tuesday, January the 7th, where I had said I would be back and I would be doing my life's work, which is sharing the present. Well, my purpose is to bring heaven to earth. So my life's work is really about being able to share the wisdom I get from my spiritual practices. And finally, I threw up my hands on like January 3rd and said, "Oh, just forget it. I'll just go on YouTube." And what I liked about YouTube, I did it out of exacerbation. Is that the right word? You know what the word? Exasperation. There you go. And I did it out of frustration, but it was easy for me to get started, and it had a wide reaching potential impact, and it didn't cost anything for those on the other end. So it seemed like a good, at least next step, if not solution. And what has happened is I have absolutely fallen in love with doing this YouTube platform. So I want to thank you all for showing up so that I could do what I love to do. And if you haven't already subscribed, I invite you to I invite you to do that. The next 90 days, I will be learning about the ins and outs of YouTube. I haven't done that yet. And as I do, what I do know is subscriptions mean something to the YouTube world. So I appreciate you doing that. I appreciate you sharing the video for those who you think would like it and for making comments below. All of that is really helpful. But the reason that I'm sharing this story with you is because one of the lessons I've learned through this is that I can get stuck in form. So we learn pretty quick in our spiritual studies that God is all that there is. It's that which is invisible and formless, but it's also that which takes form because there's one substance in the universe. Einstein called it energy. So there's one substance in the universe. And very quickly, I learned that I was bumping up against form. And so I am inviting you, if you become frustrated, if things are hard for you, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I invite you to look at the forms that you are expressing through and see if there isn't something else that works for you. And I know that this message goes far beyond YouTube and has to do with the realm of the formless and the realm of form. And so play around with what that might mean to you. I also have had what I consider to be the universe conversing with me ever since I went on YouTube. Now, of course, it always has. I consider my life to be between God and I show up of service to others. I show up to play. I show up for all kinds of great stuff, but I consider my higher authority, the presence of God, as being my boss. And so what was interesting is ever since I went on YouTube, all of you guys have given me such beautiful feedback. I've received donations through our website. I have received emails. I have received notes. I have received texts and just all kinds of thank yous for going on YouTube. And here this honestly was a last ditch attempt of I give up. These other things aren't working for me. I give up. I'm going to do YouTube. And isn't that interesting that that surrender was actually what feels like a right fit for me? And so I just encourage you to know that when we are called to do something, it may take several different iterations until that thing we're called to do hits a clunk and is actually a fit. And so, my big lesson for myself is any step along the way I could have made myself wrong. I could have made the system wrong. I could have done all kinds of blame and shame and what have you. And the beauty of staying open to the moment was to see that the option C was really my option. So thanks to all of you for your absolutely beautiful feedback. Okay, the next thing that I wanted to talk about tonight was something that happened this weekend. I attended the Jewish Film Festival here in town, and I saw a movie about a woman named Carla Pepperzak. And she's a local Spokane woman now. She's 101 years old, and she was a Dutch resistor. She was in the Dutch resistance during World War II. There's actually here in Spokane a middle school named after her. But what was interesting was that she was serving what I'm going to call the innocence of humankind. She was serving God. She was serving her neighbor. She was serving her families through helping people hide. She was part of the underground, helping people hide during World War II who were in jeopardy for being harmed. And so she arranged for houses. She brought people to where they needed to go. She created fake IDs. She forged documents. She delivered food. And in one part of her story, there was a period of 2 to 3 months where the country didn't have a food supply. And so she got a hold of sugar and delivered them to the families, but a good portion of the people she served and herself lived on sugar water. And, I just found I found her story so compelling. And I brought my oldest granddaughter with me, who's 12, and on the way home, we talked about the movie, The Woman. She was there, we met her, and my granddaughter was so inspired, and we talked about it, and one of the things I realized was that a movie was made about her. She has the middle school named after her, and she's considered a light or a good person because she followed her own principle, because she lived a principled life. She lived from her heart, her gut, her being, from the inside out. And when my granddaughter and I were talking, I said, "You know, honey, the reason that she's seen as being so spectacular is because the majority of the people around her weren't living a principled life." So she was unique and that she was willing to love and care for humanity amidst a atrocity. And she was willing to be a place of service. And she risked her life for it. She risked the lives of the people who she was hiding if she got caught. She risked her family's lives. It was really a big move, but it was a principled move. And so when I thought about that word principle, two things come to mind to me. First is the values and the principles by which you and I live, and that's an internal job. And then the other thing I thought about was spiritual principles that are invisible and that run the invisible world. And I'm really aware that during this time in our culture, when the government is changing and pulling programs and just shifting things day by day, moment by moment, that two things I think of. One is John Meacham, the historian, says that our presidents are reflections of us. We choose people who reflect us. And then the second thing I think of is Reverend Michael Beckwith, who you all know I'm a fan of. And he says that our government lives inside of us. And so, what I'm committing to, and what I've been talking with my one on one clients with this past week, is committing to becoming more spiritually fortified, is to put spiritual practices first and in the forefront, and to allow ourselves to listen to that presence within that we might be guided, that we might be guided. And in my lifetime, I have witnessed so many people who appear to be flashy with their spirituality or their religion, and the moment any pressure hits them, they fold. And they aren't principled people. They aren't living from principle. And their life is not my business. My life is. So my intent is to be fortified. And that's a big part of my commitment to myself for this year, for 2025. Um, yeah, and we'll do that together on these Tuesday nights. And then the other thought I had is many years ago, 2004, did a forgiveness tour. And I used to say during the forgiveness tour, I used to quote Wayne Dyer. And he had the saying that when you squeeze an orange, you get orange juice. And then he would say, when you're squeezed, what comes out? So again, this is going back to being principled. When you are squeezed and you are called to stand up and speak the truth with a capital T and with a small t, are you able to do it? Or do you protect yourself? And remember, Emma Curtis Hopkins says, God is our protection. And so, this idea of self protection is an interesting idea, and we will explore at some point, I am sure. So the question for me is, how do I show up internally? And truth with a capital T is a cornerstone of spiritual living. Capital T means it's truth of God, it's truth from God, it's eternal truth. As you know, everything in form lives and dies and comes and goes. And the formless is that which is eternal. That's our soul. That's our capital B being. That's our self. So how does that being within me show up internally? And truth being an absolute cornerstone of what is to be. And then when we vibrate to the resonance of capital T truth, when we vibrate to that resonance, it keeps our field clean and it vitalizes our body temple. And I've been so aware of how important being vital is while we're alive. And so I did put a prayer for vitality on our website, spiritualcenterspokane.org. If you go and put in your email address, you will receive an affirmative prayer that I wrote for vitality. All right. So then the third thing that I wanted to share before we go into our spiritual practice is that I woke up this morning and my daughter had sent me a video of a former boyfriend of mine who just got confirmed as a city council member. And he had had a dream about 25 years ago of serving humanity through being a council member. And he ran a couple times and he really, really wanted to do this. And while we were in relationship together, maybe 15 years ago or so, we used to pray together for this to become a reality. And so we have long gone our own separate ways. And I woke up today to a text from my daughter of this gentleman now becoming a council member. And my heart jumped with complete and total joy. It was a prayer, many, many prayers that had become made manifest. And it took longer than I'm sure he would have wanted it to take, but I also trust the right timing of God. And so there was this lightness and this joy in my heart. And I stopped and sent out on the airwaves some love to him. And it got me thinking about sometimes how long it takes for prayers to be made manifest for us. And one of my newest stories is that when I was 18, I guess this is boyfriend day. When I was 18 and in high school, I had a boyfriend whose family for their kitchen table had pews around the table. And I thought it was the coolest thing to sit on pews whenever you sat and had a meal. And I said out loud to myself, when I grow up, I want to have pews around my kitchen table. And it's not easy to go out and buy pews, by the way. And I looked in antique stores, I've looked online on occasion, etc. And then 45 plus years later, I had dinner this summer with a friend in Seattle who said, "Hey, by chance, would you like some pews?" Absolutely out of the blue. And I said, 100%. And his church was remodeling and getting rid of the old and bringing in new, and they had pews to give away. So 45 plus years later, I now have pews around my kitchen table. And whenever I see them, I see how there is no time and space in God, and yet prayer works and it shows up. And then a couple weeks ago, I was in prayer and I asked that I love, 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 love teaching classes and doing retreats. And I'm good at it and I love it. And so I asked that the portal might be opened for retreats. And a couple days later, I got an email from a church, from a spiritual center that I used to be a part of many decades ago. And they had contacted me because they wanted me to facilitate their retreat this year. And I could have been blown over with a feather, although I have miracles and manifestations all the time. I was so thrilled. And that will be a new next. And I remember sitting in retreats at that center as a spiritual leader, not the minister, but as a spiritual leader. And I remember sitting in there and thinking, I would love to do this someday. I would love to do this someday. And now that someday is here. So that was a reminder to me that there is no time and space in God. It's also a reminder to me of how active our intentions are in the field. And it also was a reminder to me of how deeply, deeply, deeply I am loved. And as that is true of me, this is also true of you. So let's go ahead and do our spiritual practice together today. I'm going to ask you to grab a pen and a paper if you have a moment. Let me give you a minute to go grab something. Okay, and what we're going to do as part of our prayer slash meditation tonight is a mental cleanse. And so, since everything is an internal, since our world is inside us, and yet we live in an external environment, we can get snagged. We can get fooled into thinking that the outside is real and the inside is not. So it's important that we stop and we do some internal cleansing. And the more clean and clear we are inside and in our field, the easier it is for us to receive intuitive messages and the easier it is to manifest and to see the divine presence wherever we go. So tonight, I'd like you on your paper to just skim through this past week and jot down anyone that you judged. And there's a difference between judging and discerning. So, judging is making someone right or wrong or good or bad. And being discerning is saying yes and no for yourself for what fits. So, jot down anyone you judged, right, wrong, good, bad. Anyone you wished evil upon. Anyone that you did not see the presence of God in. And take just a moment and write down their names. And now, next to their name, write down the thing that triggered you, maybe it's not really the trigger, it's the thing you judged. Write down the energy attached to that person. Did you see them as selfish, hurtful, greedy, thoughtless? How did you perceive them outside of you? And I just love, love, love the part in the Bible that says to pray for your enemies because the enemies are thoughts in our mind where we have diminished others. So, with your list, let's close our eyes. Take a nice, big, huge, deep breath. Move your shoulders. Make noise if it's safe for you to do so in your house. Blah, like shake it out a little bit. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Ah. Ah. One more loud one. Ah. And now feel your feet on the ground as you kind of stomp a little bit. Oof. Throw open your arms that you may feel the vastness of the energy around you. And let's close our eyes. So last week I spoke about distortion from hatred and these little, little teeny things we wrote down, or these big things that we wrote down, either way, are distortions from a field of hate, which is a field of separation. There's no judgment about this. There never is. We're not judging or berating ourselves. We're just being aware. And one of the things that a spiritually intuitive person does is they feel all of their emotions. They witness, they feel, and they let them pass. An active emotion felt only lasts a few seconds. An emotion that you're afraid of and push away will mold and grow and morph and turn into other things that drive you. And so repeat after me. Divine presence within, Holy Spirit within, life force within and around me, the field of God's good that I swim in. I take these distortions that I have placed upon other people, and I ask that the cleansing power of love within me may scrub, may cleanse, may purify these distorted thoughts and return the energy back to me usable. If there's anything I am to know about these thoughts, divine presence, please reveal them to me in my sleep. I call forth and claim transformation. I allow my intent to override my pettiness. And I speak my intent aloud right now. And my purpose is to bring heaven to earth, and all of our intents are to know the divine love of God within us. So repeat after me. I intend to know the love of God within me. I intend to know the power of God within me. I intend to know the joy of God within me. I intend to know the peace of God within me. Anything that disrupts this field, that distorts this field, I am willing to look at and let it know that the presence of intention, of love, of good within me is stronger than its nothingness. And so I bless each and every person on my piece of paper. I give thanks that they showed up to show me areas within my being and my field that needed cleansing. And now let's place our attention on our heart. Let's breathe through our heart in the front and in the back. Let's feel our entire field filled with that heart energy. And our gut is so beautiful. Our belly, our gut, our energy of the knowingness, the visceral awareness. Let's bring that into the field too. Our awareness of it. Of course, it exists in the field, but let's bring our awareness of it to the forefront. Our beautiful, beautiful gut. And let's take a few 5 minutes or so just to sit in silence, awake and aware of those portals of ours that are actively open. Our belly, our solar plexus, and our heart. And as we are aware of this, we feel our feet on the ground. And we're aware we don't have to do anything but breathe. So, awareness on the heart, awareness on the gut, and breath. And if our attention wanders, we bring it back to our gut, we bring it back to our heart. And now let's place our attention exclusively on our gut, on our belly area. And for many of us women, we have been trained to not like our body and especially not like our middle section. So, as your attention is on your gut, on your belly, on your center, allow that attention to be soft, comforting. And as you breathe in and breathe out, just witness your belly, your center. And if you have any gastrointestinal problems and issues, it's even more important that we give attention to this part of our body. Attention is a form of love. So, as we tend to the center of our being, we aren't ignoring it. We aren't pushing it away. We aren't medicating it. We aren't blaming it. We're just sitting oh so softly in consciousness with the center of our being. In chakra language, this is our power center. This is our power center. As we fortify our spiritual life, we include our gut, we include our belly, we include our center in this fortification. And now, very consciously, bring a full breath down into your belly. Feel it rising and moving. How miraculous our body temples are. Just this awareness of taking time and placing it on our gut, lets us know how deeply, deeply loved the universe is. Oh, how lucky you and I are to be in bodies. There will be a time that we're not, and we're here now, so we feel it, we witness it. We recognize, as scripture says, that this is a living temple. Mm. So let's place our attention on our heart again, and this time just allow that energy from our heart to flow down into our bellies. And of course, the reality is it always does, but the piece of awareness is becoming aware of it and the feeling tone of it. Oh, that just feels so good. And repeat after me. There's nothing that can hurt, harm, or endanger me. I live by the protection of Source. My gut lets me know if I'm to turn right or if I'm to turn left. My gut lets me know if I'm to take a car or an airplane. My gut lets me know if someone is worthy of being in relationship with me. My gut knows if there is anything I need to be awake to in order to make choice. And when I say worthy to be in relationship with me, I'm talking about inner circle. I'm talking about intimate connectedness. And my gut lets me know if someone keeps their word. And my gut lets me know if someone keeps confidences. And my gut lets me know if it's safe to share. And my gut lets me know if I'm to walk away. And my gut lets me know if I'm not to go. And so, as I'm living a fortified spiritual life, I'm trusting my intuitive center to guide me. And so I just let that love energy from my heart permeate all of my belly, my center, my intuitive self. And I feel that energy within me and surrounding me. Ah, it just feels so good. And now, ever so briefly, let's go up to our throat and just hang out for a minute in our throat. And in 2025, let's sing praises to the Lord of our being, to the Lord of the universe, to the Lord of life. And let's bring our attention up to our third eye, where the light of God just beams through each one of us so strongly. Ah, and let's just place the names of the people we wrote down earlier right into that light. Oh, how lovely. Whoosh, whoosh. Let's Beautiful. Mm. And repeat after me. I give thanks for my body temple. I give thanks for being alive right here and right now. I give thanks for the activation of spirit within me. I give thanks for the fortification of spirit within me. I give thanks that the goodness and the glory of God shall follow me all of the days of my life. I commit to living from principle. I commit to speaking truth. Let's place our hand on our hearts. And some people like to close their apertures. Some people like to close the portals or mute your portals or leave them open. And I trust your intuition to know what's right action for you. And I give thanks for each and every person who have shown up to this YouTube Spiritual Center Spokane. I give thanks that this messaging is of value to those who receive it and is of spirit spoken through me. I speak my word that this ministry is funded in the perfect right way. I speak my word that each one of us is a blessing on this planet. And more importantly, that we are awake to it. We're awake to the power of blessing or curse. And this day we choose blessing. Whew. I give thanks for each one of us, who we are, how we are. And I just trust the intuitive knowing of this goodness and this glory of God. And so I speak my word for each one of us that this week is a week where we choose infinite truth with a capital T over the temporary, ever changing nature of the world. And I do give thanks that our government is an internal awareness. And I claim this internal awareness to be a space and a place for a sacred city to bloom, a sacred country, a sacred world. And I give thanks for all of the spiritual centers and for the work that the Buddhists do that is so beautiful, and the work of the Hindus and of the Jews and of the Muslims. I bless work of God, work of good. And there's a lot of us on the planet right now remembering who we are and where we come from. And so for this, I give thanks, blessing each one of us and calling our time together complete. And so it is. Amen. Thank you so very much. If you would like the affirmative prayer on vitality, then go to our website, spiritualcenterspokane.org, and put in your email address, and you will get a little prayer of vitality. And I think that's all of the messaging that I have to give for tonight. Again, thank you so much for being here. If you enjoyed this, subscribe. If it is of value to someone you know and love, please pass it along. And may this next week for you be heavenly. You are loved. Good night.